From Hell to Mars to other dimensions, Doomguy has traveled far and wide to satiate his hunger for violence, and Doom the Dark Ages is no different. The latest entry into the Unnamed Man saga takes us to a time when people were still using maces and flails in combat, but also somehow giant robots, shotguns, and spaceships? This game takes you all over semi-medieval time to save the badass damsel in distress and murder thousands of demons along the way just for shits and gigs. Gameplay, and a little about the story. Doom the Dark Ages takes the Doomslayer back to before Hell invaded Earth and Mars to a time of guns and medieval weaponry, where Prince Azrak seeks to find the Heart of Argent to gain the powers of a god to rule Hell with, which he believes the Makers are housing with the help of the Sentinels. The Doomguy, no name at all, could not care less about any of this and just wants to kill demons, but is unfortunately held by a tether to the Maker's will. You go on another killing spree in Doom-like fashion to help the Makers and Sentinels protect their kingdoms and the Heart. This entry takes us in a different direction from Doom 2016 and Eternal, slowing you down from the Roadrunner on crack down to just a regular man on crack, in favor of the new parry mechanic that comes with your shield. The speed and chaos has definitely returned, but you won't be able to dodge every attack, and you are rewarded for using your shield to block and deflect the special attacks that the various demons and bosses throw at you. You begin the game with a simple pump-action shotgun, a fist, and a dream, finding more weapons, both ranged and otherwise, along the way. I won't spoil everything you find because there's a large satisfaction when you come across a drop pod with a new weapon inside, but there are 12 ranged weapons, 3 melee weapons, and 4 shield runes. 5 of the ranged weapons have an alternate version with 2 other unique ranged weapons to get you to 12. I found which version I preferred and mainly used those 5 throughout the game, with each weapon slot feeling unique, but the alternates for them falling kind of short for uniqueness even though they are just as effective. This is really the only disappointment with the combat, as I would have liked to see a little more special feel to each weapon. The melee weapons and shield runes each have a very distinct feel and purpose, and these can be used throughout your playthrough. As far as enemies, there are a few categories. First, you have fodder enemies that are very easy to kill, with hundreds running around just being nuisances. These can usually be killed in a couple shots or a melee strike depending on what you use, and they are mainly there to drop you health and ammo. Next, you have what are basically the muscle in a gang, requiring a bit more focus to kill, and can easily send you back to the next checkpoint if you aren't paying attention. These enemies have heavier attacks and require more than a few shots to take out. The third tier are mini-bosses, which typically have very few, if any, teammates to help them when you fight. These can be very tough and have much less predictable attacks and are usually in small arenas that will center your focus on them. Finally, there are super bosses that are in set-piece arenas with a big cinematic fight that takes place and have incredibly large health bars and multiple stages that you might see in games like Dark Souls or Grim Dawn. Each of these tiers have multiple enemies within them that all feel different and require changes in loadouts to defeat, making for a satisfying gameplay loop that is always keeping you on your toes. The exploration and platforming from the previous 2 entries returns here, offering you the option to find gold and gems to upgrade your weapons, small toys of you and your enemies as collectibles, and lore notes to read for information about your surroundings that the story does not offer you in itself. This exploration is usually in the form of a platformer, but always have some small puzzles that are not too difficult to figure out as long as you use your map effectively. I played this through on the hardest difficulty below permadeath and found the game to be very challenging but not impossible. There were spots where I struggled and died a few times while I changed my tactics until I found one that worked. I found the combat to be very satisfying and challenging, with 1,000 things always happening on screen, continuing the trend of the previous 2 titles in spite of the small change of pace from those games. Sound and music. The sound effects are very good in Dark Ages, from the massive booms of the shotguns to the burning or exploding flesh of your enemies. The recent 2 Doom entries have been some of my favorites as far as sound effects in modern gaming, and this one continues that trend. Every gun has a unique sound, the enemies all have their weird demon noises that they like to make, and the kills are satisfying in their sloppy Joe sounding violence of dead flesh. Things can get a little arcadey sounding, such as breaking enemy armor has a dinner bell sounding ding, and blocking sounds sound less like a metal hitting a shield and more like a gong being struck, but I can't think of any times where the sounds felt out of place or poorly done. The voice acting isn't going to bring you to tears or leave you in awe of the performance, but it is all very well done here. The Doomguy has a grand total of 1 bone-chilling line in the entire game, and it's 100% worth it. Prince Azrak and Commander Thera, voiced by Rick Cosnet and Deborah Wilson, really shine here, with no poor performance from any of the supporting cast. The story and voices aren't exactly at the forefront of any Doom game, but they do a very good job in this title of making the characters feel alive. Arguably the best part of this game is the music, that has heavy metal filling your headphones with heart-pounding instrumentals and an ear-piercing guitar that would make Kirk Hammett blush. The metal fits in perfectly with the flow of this game, slowing down when the gameplay slows, and speeding up as you start to blow the heads off the unfortunate demons that cross your path. There are not many games that do music better than Doom the Dark Ages, as I found myself dying more than a few times because I got caught up listening to the metal instead of focusing on the 4,000 projectiles headed my way. Graphics and art. I ended up playing on 1080p high settings for most of the way after fiddling with settings for the better part of the first chapter. More about this later. The game looks great pretty much no matter what settings you play on, with an art style that supports the doom and gloom of, well, Doom. Lots of very dark tones that go along with the ultra-violent nature of the game, as well as blood and gore that'll make you rethink your life choices to avoid going to hell at all costs. While there are only so many things you can do in a Mexico filter hell, id Software found ways to incorporate other colors, from the parryable attacks being green, the blues of electricity, and purple magic attacks. You don't feel like anything is ever bland in a world of gray and orange. Performance. This is where things take a bit of a disappointing turn, as I struggled with performance throughout my playthrough. I don't mean just dying over and over because I sucked, but rather the game's performance on my PC. I play on a 3070 with a 14900K and had big issues with performance. I had to play on 1080p in high settings to achieve a consistent 60 FPS, while I play 1440 on every other game I've had for the last 6 years. Even on very low 1440 I struggled to hit 60 FPS, so I chose to stay on 1080. I had a few pop-in issues as well, but nothing to write home about. I did have a lot of crashes during my playthrough, almost always happening after tabbing out at any point, whether between chapters or in the middle of one. I couldn't figure out a solution to these, which made it very frustrating and could put people off, but hopefully this can be fixed through later patches. Final verdict. After completing the game with almost 100% before any DLCs, this is one of the very few games that I would recommend at full price with a caveat. If you struggle to accept playing on lower settings than normal or crashing, I would recommend waiting on post-launch patches to address those issues. However, if you have patience with those kind of things, I would definitely recommend this at the full $70 price point. This is also out on Xbox Game Pass for PC and console as of this review, which I would say is a major steal for anyone that is able to play it there. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.